Sony and Microsoft have been taking leaks. Microsoft a self-inflicted leak, and Sony the victim of a hack for money, or else they release some footage of Wolverine, which is already released. And there are tons of other things going around. Microsoft exiting hardware 2027. Sony afraid of the of Microsoft's strategy and saying that they're behind, and what are they going to do, and can they play catch up, and they can't possibly outspend Microsoft, and it's pretty much doom and gloom depending on which side you're on. So if you go to the hyper extreme Xbox side, which I don't feel like this is news, but most of those people don't know anything other than if they say something, it'll get engagement on social media, which will lead to more followers, more likes for some reason. That's important. And on the PlayStation side, it's whatever comes out, whatever leaks, it's always fake. So somewhere in between lies the truth. And ultimately, is this something that you should worry about as somebody who plays video games? The answer to that question is no. Because whatever happens, there's always going to be video games. It's a huge market. It's not going to go away. And certainly there are always going to be people who make hardware in the video game space, because there's a lot of people who like to buy consoles, and there are a lot of people who buy PCs to play video games, and there are people who buy phones and play mobile. And all of those things will still be available to people in some form, in some fashion. But ultimately, PlayStation and Xbox is the one that gets the most, the most play when it comes to engagement on social media. So let's talk about PlayStation. Let's talk about Xbox. The big question is, can PlayStation survive this onslaught of acquisition from Microsoft? Can they survive in the new gaming hemisphere where everything has to have a long tail, everything has to be a games as a service, and ultimately all of the games that they're known for, AAA, 300 million, 200 million. Recently, the news came out that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is a phenomenal game. It is such a great game. But ultimately, if you believe the leaks, the game didn't make them any money. I mean, you look at Sunset Overdrive, that leak came out, and they only made $568 on the game, which is insane because nobody supported it on the Xbox. That's another problem in and of itself when it comes to video games. But ultimately, I made a video recently about Sony in 2024 and possibly running into some issues, and I feel like, I don't know if these leaks are true or not. There was like a spreadsheet put up about them falling behind and worried about, game subscription models and how that can't really work itself out, and the cost of making games, putting them in a subscription service just didn't make much sense. And ultimately, Microsoft can do that forever because they've got a $2 trillion market cap. Sony can't do that. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that just looking at it as somebody who's been around for a while, lived through, Sega's rise and horrible decision after horrible decision after horrible decision. I knew as soon as the Dreamcast was announced, it was the end. I wasn't one of these people who were like, Sega's back. No, I knew that something was wrong, and you can feel it and you could see it. So am I seeing that? Am I feeling that with PlayStation or Xbox right now? When you look at Xbox, 52% decline, selling worse than the Xbox One. I want you to listen to that. Worse than the Xbox One in some regions. Not all regions. Some regions, it is selling worse than the Xbox One. They have a 52% decline in Europe of all of their console sales. So that's something, right? You can't just ignore that and say, well, it doesn't matter because they're making tons of revenue. Revenue isn't profit. What are the costs? The manufacturing costs for a console are high. Are they going to keep spending that money to make hardware when nobody conceivably really wants to purchase it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. The same way that I don't know the answer to, can PlayStation survive in an environment where they just simply cannot spend the kind of money to keep up or to stay relevant? Now, they've got Marvel X-Men IPs locked up until 2035. So you've got Wolverine, you've got Venom, you've got X-Men, you've got all of the X-Men characters exclusive to PlayStation till 2035. However, there's a caveat there. They've got to sell 6 million or more, or else that deal goes away. I don't think that's a problem. I think they'll sell that, especially now with them moving to PC, which I think you're going to see day-and-date games on PlayStation 5 and PC, or I mean, like literally like a month or two after release for the console. And I do feel like eventually, with Microsoft squeezing the way they are, that you're going to see day-and-date first-party games in a Sony subscription service like PlayStation Plus, Extra, and Premium. I feel like that's going to happen. And if it does happen, then it's pretty much a vindication for Microsoft and Xbox in terms of their strategy going forward. They're already in the best position because they've already purchased pretty much everybody who does live service, who can make single-player games, both single-A and double-A, release them in a steady cadence if they can get to that point. And those leaks that you saw from Sony, they speak to that. So if they're real, if they're not fake, created by like a 40 or 50-year-old hyper Xbox fan for some reason, then it is Sony looking at things and saying, you know, we've got a problem. We've got a problem here, and it's a competitor with a lot of money. It's a competitor that purchased a lot of those third-party live service games that we've leaned on in the past by getting deals and, you know, keeping them exclusive. They still are doing that with Marvel. It's crazy to think or as Christopher Walken would say, it's crazy that they still are able to make these deals with Marvel to keep X-Men characters exclusive to PlayStation. And that's a testament to what Insomniac did with Spider-Man. And I'm pretty sure Marvel looked at that and thought, that's amazing. No pun intended, the Amazing Spider-Man. And we want that kind of quality output for our characters now. Does that mean that Blade is exclusive for Xbox, with Marvel saying, you know, you've got to hit 6 million sales or else this deal is going to be reevaluated? What's the deal for Blade? I don't know. I think that it would be important for Blade to be exclusive to Xbox, whatever Xbox means, the console, the PC, the cloud, the refrigerator, your phone. I think it would be important to be exclusive, but I don't know if it will be. After this Marvel deal for X-Men characters completely exclusive to PlayStation and PC until 2035, it better be exclusive, or else what would be the point of having it and developing it, having Arcane Leon develop it in Bethesda? So ultimately, you're going to see tons of videos from people talking about how PlayStation is completely doomed. You're going to see tons of videos from people talking about how Xbox is on the rise, or how Xbox is going to exit console space, the console space in 2027, which I'm starting to look at and think is a bit ridiculous. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's hard to make a video like this and tell you anything definitively because nobody really knows anything. I do know that costs for these games is skyrocketing, and you can see that when you look at the breakdown of not only games that Microsoft would have to pay to get into Game Pass, that breakdown where you saw how much it would take to get certain games that they don't have yet. And that was astronomical numbers to get them in a subscription service. But think about the money that it takes Sony to create Wolverine and make it fantastic. Think about the money it'll take to make the Venom game, or the X-Men game, or the 2 new IPs coming from Insomniac. Think about all of that cost, and then think about not having the live service games to lean on, not having the Call of Duty deals to lean on. You have to pay Microsoft now. Not a great situation to be in. This is why they're trying incredibly hard to get Helldivers 2 to hit, to get Concord to hit, to get one of those 11 live service games to be a continual cash cow. And I do think at the base level, and I don't know anything about what's going on at Xbox or PlayStation, but just as somebody who's been around this for a long time, I feel like if I had to put a bet right now on who is feeling a squeeze a bit, it would be PlayStation. And I think that they're going to have to figure something out going into 2024. I don't think the things that they've announced are terribly exciting. I'm really not excited about Rise of the Ronin. It just looks like an Assassin's Creed take on Ghost of Tsushima, which is already the best feudal Japanese open world role-playing game. Just fantastic action adventure role-playing, whatever you think it is. I just not excited about that, and I'm not excited about Helldivers 2. Final Fantasy 7 again. Okay, it's going to be huge, but I mean, another deal, another third-party deal, second-party deals, first-party is kind of playing their cards close to the chest. This leak revealed a lot of Insomniac's plans with the X-Men and the deal with Marvel, but I do feel like that the cost of doing what Sony used to do in the past is starting to become a problem. And I feel like Microsoft's strategy is really starting to squeeze Sony in different areas, and they're going to have to find a way to get out of that, or things are going to change drastically. But let me know what you think in the comment section about these leaks. Are they real? Is the spreadsheet that miraculously found its way into that Sony leak, is that real, or was that created by some, crazy person who's in love with Xbox? Let's talk about the PlayStation leak and, or the Xbox leak, I'm sorry. Do you think that they're exiting the console space? Do you think that 52% decline is a problem? I mean, obviously it is. You can't just ignore it. And again, talk about it in the comment section. Think about liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.